Tyranny busted. Tyranny busted. Tyranny busted.
Watched.
That's right.
All right, there you go, Mike. Open it up.
All right, welcome to Tyranny Busters.
Hey.
I'm Mike Benoit, and
I'm Mario Perea.
we're here to bust some tyranny upon the mind of man. Oh! There you go. There's us starting to show off with a bang.
What is tyranny, Mike?
Well, tyranny is taking control of something where you have no right to take control of it. So the next question is, what's tyranny upon the mind of man? And that's taking care of, taking control of someone's mind. And you do that, the only way you can control somebody's mind is that they don't know it.
Well,
in other words, with a tyranny, if you control them and they decide to do something based on what you told them, if it was true, that's fine. But if it was lies or propagandas or misinformation or whatnot, and then they act on what you told them, then that'd be a tyranny upon their mind, because they're acting, hoping and assuming that they've got nothing but correct information. So it's like a mind control. It's like if somebody hypnotized you.
for instance, if leader of your country told you that this group of people had attacked your country, when in fact it wasn't really them that had attacked your country, and then you went off and killed those people, that would have been based off of tyranny.
That's a tyranny upon the mind.
All right, man. Well, I'm not trying to make any references to this day that we have, Patriot Day today, Mike.
Is that what today is?
That's what it is. I don't know when it became Patriot Day, but now go on my calendar, and September 11th is Patriot Day. Like Christmas is Boxing Day, or the day after Christmas, something like that is Boxing Day. September 11th is now Patriot Day.
So that's official?
It's official, man. I don't know how long it's going to last, but it's official. And like I said, I wasn't trying to make any references here, but it's funny. Not funny. It's serious. It's peculiar.
Hey, what's a patriot?
Well, a patriot is one who has love for their country.
So a Nazi who loved Adolf Hitler in his country, he's the patriot.
I would imagine that the SS were considered patriots for their country, and probably received a high amount of pay and respect for I don't know if people were driving around with their Volkswagen Bugs with support the troops stickers, ribbons on their Volkswagens.
Hey, I got another question.
What's up?
Is that a love for your country or love for your government?
Oh, well, what's the difference?
Ooh, big time difference.
Well,
country is the culture, the people in it, say the Jack in the Box, McDonald's, going to the beach, the mountains, association with friends and whatnot.
that's country.
That's country.
Gotcha.
And those things that are, sprout because of freedom.
Okay.
Now, government, see, I love America, but I certainly don't love the United States of America, the corporation.
So this is something that has not sprouted up out of freedom? So just what you're saying?
No, come out of the garden of tyranny.
Mm.
You know what tyranny is?
Tyranny is the use of force or fraud in order to control something that is not yours.
There you go. And you know what? They do a lot of it by force or fraud. We were having a conversation earlier about Social Security.
Oh yeah, we got an audience too.
Got an audience.
Say hi.
Hi.
All right.
There you
all
go.
Right, there you go.
Got an audience of a unanimous of one.
That's all it takes.
So anyway, we're talking about Social Security. It starts off like this idea that it's voluntary, and then they enforce it like it's mandatory. And so that's a tyranny, you see. They say, you can volunteer into this thing, and so you say, okay, if I volunteer into it, I could probably volunteer out of it, right?
Well, this what sounds voluntary to me.
Did they say you're volunteering in for life, and no matter how bad it got you, you're stuck into it?
Oh,
They didn't say that.
that's the fraud part.
Yeah. So then you say, okay, I don't want to be in part of this anymore. then they enforce it like it's mandatory. And so there's a tyranny. And of course, when they do that enough times, people think it is mandatory.
So this isn't our country anymore. Then this forced into Social Security. This would be the government. When we're talking about the distinction between the culture, the country, and the government. So I could say, hey, I love my country, but I could easily say that I am not a fan of Social Security, and I should still be considered a patriot, shouldn't I?
Well, yeah, and if you love your country, you love the things about it that to make it great, to make it free. If you say, I love my country, and you're thinking of the government, the executive, legislative, and judicial branch of government, well, I'll say you're sick if you love that stuff.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what if this government was only being used to secure the fruits and the prosperity, the rights of our country?
Well, you're speaking of the government that Thomas Jefferson talks about when he says, government that governs least governs best.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about.
Then I'd love that government, too.
All right. Well, sucks that we had to find ourselves in this position, but what if we were talking about Bastiat, and he said in the law that when one is forced to make a decision on going along with a law that contradicts morality, that this is a horrible decision that one has to come onto, because if you then choose to go with morality, then you at the same time have to be disrespecting the law.
Yeah, if they're in contradiction, if they're contrary to each other.
Right.
And this is the kind of, when Bastiat was explaining that, he was explaining that in a system that really didn't have much of that going on. In other words, he's talking about, all right, now all of a sudden the law comes in conflict with morality. And now you're faced with a cruel alternative of either respecting the law or respecting morality when they're contradictory to one another. Now we've been in the process so long and so deep, so far down this tunnel, is that we've given up respect for morality for so long that we now have this respect for the law, and so we think things that otherwise would have been considered totally immoral.
Social Security,
taking your money and paying for someone else's education, taking your money and forcing you to paint a handicap parking spot out there to give up your property.
Taking my money to build a jail to throw somebody in for choosing to drink raw milk.
Yep, and this is all like the law now. And so people are respecting the law, which it really isn't the law, it's a perversion. And they've lost their sense of morality. It's okay to steal from you. Now, plunder you. Take what you have. Plunder your right to life, your right to pursuit of happiness, your right to liberty. So the law's doing the opposite. Morality is based in, Mario doesn't have the right to steal or to murder or to violate other people's property. And so if you do that, when we want government to deal with that, but then we end up with having government, the agent that we hired to deal with that, being the agent that violates it. And so we're this far down it now. It's been going on for this long. So now the patriot is one that loves it because it's become part of our culture. It's become part of the country. And to talk, to raise questions about the morality of it is to raise questions about the righteousness of the government, and therefore whoever does this is looked at as being suspect of being potentially a terrorist, actually, subversive. Yeah, and part of the tyranny upon their mind is they don't realize that they've given up their morality for respect of the law. They don't realize, and it's like I was giving a jury, fully informed jury seminar over the weekend, and telling about the powers of what the juror has as powers.
Which are great.
Yeah, and explaining to people that the juror has the power to nullify the law, has the power to judge the law and find the defendant not guilty, not based on the facts of the case alone, but based on they find the law repugnant, afoul. So, but people have been conditioned so much that they got to respect. They say you have to respect the law. If you don't like the law, then get your representatives to change it. But if it's the law, you got to respect the law. That's the same kind of nonsense if Adolf Hitler said, you know, Jews have to go to concentration camps, and that you have to respect that law. It's the law. If you don't like it, change the law. It's the same kind of nonsense. So people have given up their conscience, because that's the morality of the thing. If they're going to put you in prison for 25 years because you stole a loaf of bread because you were hungry, and I'm on the jury, and you did steal, the law said you go to jail for 25 years if you steal anything, and the facts are that if the judge in the system says you can only, as a juror, you can only judge the facts. If they broke the law, you can't.
Well, that would be.
You can't put it on your own to determine the law is good or bad.
But that would be a total contradiction to the definition I'm reading here out the 1828 dictionary, where it says, you know, a jury, a number of freeholders selected in a manner prescribed by law, impaneled and sworn to inquire into and try any matter of fact and to declare the truth of the evidence given to them in the case. Grand juries consist usually of 24 freeholders at least and are summoned to try matters alleged in indictments. Petty juries consisting usually of 12 men attend courts to try matters of fact in civil causes and to decide both the law and the fact in criminal prosecutions.
Well, yeah, that's the constitutional definition of what a jury is. And part of the seminar is telling people if the judge, and the judges do this, they tell you that you can't judge the law. You have to apply the law as he gives it to you.
The tyranny
That's
upon
tyranny.
the mind. They just totally have wiped out the definition, rearranged the definition, and put you into a matrix now.
Well, and it's denial of the trial by jury in that process. But the more important point here is that we're telling these people that what they consider moral is not to be part of the equation. When the judges say you can only judge the facts, not the law, we're telling them, don't use your conscience in this case. If you found that the guy was guilty of stealing the bread, the loaf of bread, then find him guilty and we'll put him in jail for 25 years. Now, how could anybody in good conscience find that a just punishment?
Well, it happens every day, maybe not so severe, but with mandatory drug laws right now, mandatory minimum drug laws right now, you know, you could get caught with 5 grams of crack cocaine and you're going to get mandatory 2 to 3 years. So how does somebody with a conscience say this person who has got caught with this tiny little rock of chemicals now should be thrown into a cell for 2 to 3 years?
Well, that's why they don't have a conscience anymore, because for far too long they've given up their conscience when it's considered through government, where a person like you wouldn't steal from me personally. But if the government says, look here, you can get $5,000 rebate on your new vehicle if you buy this energy efficient vehicle, the government's going to give you $5,000. Well, you're not thinking that $5,000 is coming from people like me. So you lose your morality in that sense because, well, hey, it's the law. And then your connection of morality there. Now, if the government actually passed a law that said those that have less money are entitled to go over to their neighbors and take from them to make it equal, then because you've lost your morality, you'll say, hey, this is the law, and we've got just respect for the law. So that's how far we've come down this pike here.
Yeah, and as you can see, that's almost the direction that we're we are moving towards, to where there just will be outright license given for theft. And at some point in time, the masquerade is over, and well, this guy's he's hoarding the food over there. So if he's hoarding, you have the right to go over there and take his food from him. Or if he's hoarding water, you have that right. I mean, this is a necessity of life, and I wonder how long it is until we are going to have licensing to steal in such a manner.
Well, there's plenty of licenses right now to steal, and it's like in the judicial system, whether civil or criminal, the lawyers write the laws. They get into the legislature and they write these laws. This family court and all the laws regarding divorce and child support, they're written in such a way that they want to create conflict. Because who makes money in the process of conflict?
The government?
Lawyers.
Yeah.
Lawyers are making money.
Oh yeah, I just saw the other day this lawyer here, family court lawyer, being indicted for embezzlement, and apparently this is heavy.
Well, that would be plunder that the government's not sanctioning. But what I'm talking about is the plunder that the government sanctions. They write the laws in such a way. First off, typically they talk about equality among the sexes.
Mm-hmm.
But in the divorce court and whatnot, there's still this presumption that the children are better off with the mother. That throws the equality among the sexes out the window. Now, let's say you got a situation where the mother understands that she can benefit by getting a divorce, by getting child support, by getting alimony, and have her freedom. And the father loses in the process by having to pay all of this with very little left. And he may end up renting a room in somebody's house, doesn't have his own space. Kids don't want to go over there for the weekend. So the kids don't find it even going fun with the dad anymore. And so he's turned into a cash cow. But is this intentionally to get the fathers? No. It's because predominantly the fathers in the relationship have more money. But guess what? Because they're working and the women maybe not making as much. If the roles are reversed and the woman has a lot of money,
yeah,
then they actually, even if she doesn't say, if she gets custody 30% of the time, or say 70% of the time, he gets custody 30% of the time, but she makes 10 times as much money, all right, they're going to nail her for a ton of money. And even if he's making enough to pay all his bills and everything, because it's about redistributing the money or the income. And so if they set this thing up on a really equal basis, like the default is each parent is entitled to 50% custody time,
right?
And each parent, because they got 50% custody time, is required to provide the standard of living that they can provide for their kid.
Right.
None of this. Well, this sad news that maybe mom's got a mansion up in La Jolla and dad's got an apartment.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden dad needs to be evened out.
Right, right.
So the kid has the same. No. There's different kinds of life experiences that come from both places.
Yeah, that is wild.
So.
And it's really set up at birth because if the parents are not married, without, by default, the father does not have any rights of the child. They have to sign paperwork and they have to end up on the birth certificate. But yeah, I'm not sure how exactly the blood test, if that's used to determine. I mean, if the mom is going to say that the father is the father, then I'm sure you can get on there without a blood test, I think. But I was just in the, in my birthing center the other day, and I was said, for single fathers, make sure that you go through these steps, or fathers who aren't married, make sure you go through these steps, because you will not have the rights to your child unless you have done so, because just right off the bat, it's over to the mom. But Mike, you're kind of, I'm thinking you're kind of sounding like the government's not doing good for us, man. and like that they're set up this legislation in order to take from us and
So make him pop a balloon.
well, I'm reading right here, Mike. Surgeon General urges new focus on suicide prevention. This is out of USA Today. Many of the 36,000 annual deaths from suicide in the United States could be prevented by making suicide prevention a part of routine health care and getting people to talk frankly about suicide in homes, schools, workplaces, the military, and even on Facebook, says an updated national strategy from the Surgeon General and a coalition of private and public groups. Preventing suicide is everyone's business, says Surgeon General Regina Benjamin at a news conference Monday introducing the plan. And this plan updates one that was introduced in 2001. Since then, the nation has made progress in understanding suicide and launched some efforts, including the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline and a special crisis line for veterans. But deaths have actually risen after falling in the 1990s, according to the Health and Human Services. We see especially alarming trends in our armed forces, noting that in July the Army lost 38 soldiers to suicide, an all-time one-month high. Catherine Sabias says that these deaths are especially heartbreaking.
Wait a minute. Can you hold your thought right there?
Okay, I got you.
I heard the numbers of suicides in Iraq. It was like 5,000 people, American soldiers, got killed over there. Well, they were killed by the enemy, but it was suicide to go over there, Mario. So it depends on how you look at it. These guys volunteered to go over there to get killed for the American military-industrial complex. So that's suicide.
Yeah, it could. You could be onto something, Mike. But the goal of the new plan is the new plan, right? This is the goal: saving 20,000 lives in the next 5 years. The plan comes with some money. $55 million in federal grants to state, tribal, and community prevention efforts. So see, hey, Mike, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I mean, sure, they're taking money from us, in all these different ways, but they're doing good, right? They're $55 million is going to the states, to our communities, in order to stop suicide from happening. I mean,
it's pretty good. What they do is they'll steal all the food out of your mouth so that you can't eat, so you starve to death, so they can turn around and give somebody some money for suicide prevention. Can I just volunteer that I'm not going to kill myself and get some of that money?
Well, the number is 1-800-273-8255, so you might be able to call them up and get a little dough.
Yeah.
But I mean, so
let's just crush the whole economy, and people can die by starvation. And then how many are going to die? How many people are committing suicide out in the civil population right now because their life just crumbled right around them? They're homeless. They got kids that they can't feed, and I see it on the news, quite frankly. This guy kills his family and then kills himself.
Yeah. No, so in all honesty, you're right. So I'm reading this article here, and I'm thinking, okay, so they're going to take $55 million out of the private sector, right, which is food out of our mouths, right? Create economic destitution, which then lends to depression, which will cause people to commit suicide. So it's like they cause these things to happen, but then they come through and give you the cure. So they give you the sickness. Everybody hates them for giving them the sickness, but then they come and give you the cure. So now we look at them and we say, they can't be that bad, because they're gonna give us money to make us not be suicidal.
Right.
And this is the same thing. The government comes and breaks your legs and then gives you crutches, and you're supposed to be happy that they gave you some crutches to walk on, even though you can't run, you can't work anymore, you're totally debilitated. But we're supposed to be happy with this.
Yeah, and people generally are. They thank God for the crutches. I dread the day when everybody's standing in soup lines and the people are going, "Thank God for the government for giving us soup," and I'll be going, "Oh my God, I can't believe this." But the thing that you're talking about there is the same thing. You apply it to the medical industry today, if you will. It's government's intervention back in it 50, 60 years ago when it was working and people could afford their health care, and if not, they made payments and the doctors made arrangements with them, where government steps in, intervenes, licensing and doctor shortages and mandating that they do this and that, making it so expensive. People got to buy insurance. Insurance companies liking the idea that let's make anything we can make it more expensive so premiums go up. Then they mandate you got to buy health insurance and da-da-da-da-da. And the next thing you know, you got people that are running for water board so they can get free health care insurance when there's a local thing happening here where they do 1 hour a month at the water board and get free health insurance that's about $1,000 a month. And the only one can have health insurance now, people that work for the government. Two largest growth industries in the U.S. are the government and the healthcare industry. But the reason that the stuff's all amok is the same thing as your crazy suicidal thing there. And, you know, like we want to say that those people gave their lives in Iraq for freedom. That's what the popular, politically correct thing to say is. But as far as I'm concerned, if you volunteer to go in the military, you're volunteering to go and fight an unconstitutional, undeclared war, go over there and to kill people who have done nothing to us in Iraq, and they want to say that the Afghanis did something to us. That's another story. They did. It was Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, coming from Saudi Arabia, but let's go attack those other people.
Let's go attack these other people. And so they see these people gave up and lost their lives. Really, and they pay them all kinds of money to do this. So that, in a sense, it's suicide. It's not protecting America or our freedoms. So, then these people a lot of these people coming back from these wars in Afghanistan and Iraq are suicidal because they can't stomach what we're doing over there as a country. And, it's got them bothered. It's the death and destruction that they're seeing over there.
Oh, yeah, that and
They're part of. They're part of. Yeah,
absolutely.
Volunteered to go do it.
Right.
Volunteered.
And so that's creating real mental issues here. So
and the psychotropic drugs that they're on, that's part of this. So that's the irony here, is that they're saying that suicide prevention should be a part of routine health care. So I'm sure part of this $55 million, I don't know how much of it's going to go to the pharmaceutical industry, but I imagine a whole heck of a lot of them to get them on some drugs. They're going to end up making them suicidal even more. So the answer here is quit sending the guys over, or quit making up these excuses for people to sign up to go over into these places and be a part of this killing machine, which is going to destroy their humanity and destroy their will to live or be able to live with the crimes that they've committed against the other people. But I don't know where to depart from there, Mike, because I got these two other articles here.
I'll give you a little segue on this too.
Cool.
You know how I told you government's like this, two sides to a stick, and the one side is the patron side, and the other side is the punisher side.
Right.
And when people want to commit suicide, it's because life is depressing to them. And why is life depressing to them? When they're living in a country really that's no longer free, it's ruled and regulated and controlled. You're either dependent on the government to live,
or you're indebted to the government.
You're indentured to the government as a tax servant or tax slave.
Pretty much.
There's no freedom in that. There's no independence in that. There's no self-control over that. Your self-determinism is squashed way down, and we see the more government tries to be the patron doing the good things, it can only do that by punishing other people. So government becomes a patron to give a free handout check over there. These people have no purpose in life but to get the next check and drudge along and da-da-da-da-da. And then they're taking the survival, the people that are slaving and working hard, they're robbing them of the abundance that they could have. This is creating a depression in both sections of society. And we ask for more of it. That's a tyranny upon the mind of man. They think that somehow government is the solution. When Jefferson and those guys said government that governs least governs best, when they were misinterpreted by the people that came later said, boy, this small government we have, it's great. We ought to make it bigger.
Oh man, that is irony in its finest. But the way that I was going to depart there, man, was you were talking about how the government intervention into healthcare with all of these mandates and has been what's caused the prices to go up so much, unaffordable. We've seen Romney now. You know, Mitt Romney, the guy who's the champion of the free market, and for the entire debate cycle this year, he would go up there. I'm going to repeal Obamacare. Day one, I'm going in there. I'm repealing Obamacare, and yay, Romney. So, but I mean, we know Romney, right? He's a flip flopper. So just yesterday, he comes in and just proves that he doesn't understand that the problem here is that the government's involved in health care. That's the problem. Why people can't afford health care is because the government's involved in it, because they've pushed up the prices so high with their intervention. He says, well, I'm not getting rid of all health care reform. Romney says on NBC's Meet the Press, of course there are a number of things that I like in healthcare reform that I'm going to put into place. One is to make sure those with pre-existing conditions can get coverage, i.e., not leave it up to insurance companies to decide who they can cover and who they can't cover. And then he says, and two is to ensure that the marketplace allows for individuals to have policies that cover their family up to whatever age they might like. I also want individuals to be able to buy insurance, health insurance on their own, as opposed to only being able to get it on a tax advantage basis through their company. So I'll go with them on that last part there. You know, people should be able to get it on their own. But I also wouldn't think that the government should be able to dictate whether or not insurance companies are able to offer block amounts of insurance to groups who come together with a large ante, with a large pot, and say, okay, we're going to go in this as a group thing, and able to get prices reduced because of the amount of revenue that they're going to be providing to the insurance company. So really, no, it's all crap here. All three of these things that Romney says that he likes about health care reform are the reasons why health insurance and health coverage has gone up so much. But he's a champion.
It's third-party intervention into the natural relationship of producer and consumer. Whenever you get a third party in there. If you're the doctor and I'm the consumer,
yeah, and
your mom's going to pay for the bill, I don't care what you charge. Just paying the bill. And that's the government gets involved. They're going to they say, okay, we're going to cover you and pay for this and whatnot. I don't care what you charge. And so you charge as much as you can. Tyranny buster.
There you go, man. Bust that tyranny.
Bust that tyranny. And so this is what happens when a third party gets involved in any situation. All right? And the third party is the payer, and there's no control or say over it. It's the same thing like the education at the school system. The parent, when you go to public schools, they're out of the loop. In other words, the state is now the third party. They're right. Supposedly paying for it.
Right.
So you, as the parent, don't even really have a say.
No, you don't.
Because you're not paying for it anymore.
No, the school board.
Yeah. And then so later on, as I'm first happy that she's paying for it, so I don't care what you charge.
Right.
Then next, as time goes along, you say, well, guess what? We only can give you this much, because that's all that it can be afforded here. So we're only going to give it half the service now, because you start rationing. But when you have a marketplace working, let's just say you wiped out all these government programs right now, instantly, overnight. All right, and there's none of that. And I go to the hospital, and they go, I know this guy don't have any insurance or whatnot, and they'll sit down and they'll say, okay, we'll negotiate a price, and then we'll go, but I don't have it all right now. And they'll say, well, can you do 50% now and pay the rest on payments? I go, not that much. How about 25%? Yeah. Here's $250,
Right.
and on $750 I'll make on payments. And you really have market forces at work again. And back in the worst times in this country, yeah, the doctor had to take a chicken or some eggs or whatever. But they did. People got the treatment, and it wasn't just crazy and out of control. And so this the biggest tyranny upon all these people's mind is somehow this is a better system because the government's got Medicare and Medicaid and this, Medi-Cal, and then now this Obama care or whatever, and then you got
the Healthcare Tyranny Act.
Healthcare Tyranny Act. You have to buy health insurance and et cetera, and then you're going to be punished with taxes and fines if you don't get it and everything else. Pre-existing stuff, like you said, oh, let's burn down the office here and then go out and buy some insurance.
Oh, well.
Pre-existing, it doesn't matter.
Well, so, of course, Romney, the next day, man, this is how, it's like the flip-flop. Can you even call it flip-flop if it's just like totally woven together? I mean,
it's got to be mush. Call it mush.
It is. It's a total mush pile because the next day, he comes out and he says, well, hey, I didn't actually mean what I said, man. What I meant to say was that, people who have been continuously insured, let's say someone who had a job for a while and been insured, then they can get real sick and happen to lose a job or change jobs. Well, they should be able to get their pre-existing conditions covered. But if somebody just gets, if somebody's sick and then goes out to get insurance, they shouldn't be able to. What did he say? He says, well, we shouldn't be able to play a game like that, guys. I mean, the same day, man, he comes out and he flip-flops and flip-flops. So I'm amazed, man. I really am amazed. And maybe it's just because I'm wet, under, what did I say that? Wet behind the ears, with my watching these types of games go on, man. But it's just like, well,
so if you haven't had insurance for a year,
right,
then this insurance company could say, for a year, we're not going to cover you with anything you have now. But if you were covered, then they have to cover you.
Well,
that's what pre-existing is.
Not according to Obamacare. The new Health Care Act is saying insurance companies are going to have to cover any type of sickness that you come to them with. You got cancer that you've had for the last 10 years. Then they will have to cover that and offer you all the treatments that you've had, even though you may only be paying for 2 months. So this will bankrupt the company. This won't bankrupt the company, right? Because the company will have to raise the rates. And then so everybody else will have to pay more. And so that's the problem. It raises up. But so do they when I listen to the Dennis Pregers or to the Mike Savage or to the Mark Levins, do they hold him accountable for this? Do they go, you know what, this Romney guy, man, we were stupid for nominating this guy as our presidential candidate here. He's a total flip-flopper. Let's just have a powwow right now and get Ron Paul into the seat and let's do this right. No, they don't say that. They get on the radio and they say, well, you know what, Romney? You're going to have to take the gloves off, man. You just can't be capitulating like that. We know that you want to do the right thing. We know that you do, man. So just stop acting like you don't and just do the right thing. And so that's, and I was talking about this before because this is how I see the game going on, man. I see these talk show hosts on the AM station, how they act as the gatekeepers right now because they know people are pissed off at this, man. They know people see through the lies here. So they can't just totally give Romney all the cover that he needs. So they'll criticize him for 5 minutes about his flip-flopping, and then the next 2.5 hours, they'll just rail on Obama for doing the exact same thing as Mitt Romney does. And so, and by doing this, the people who are listening to these shows, they're thinking, okay, well, he's right. I mean, Mitt Romney, he wants to do the right thing. So what we have to do is we just have to be more vocal and telling him what we want him to do. And so they think that, man. They think that they can just somehow, because Romney's such a flip-flopper, spineless jellyfish, that if they just apply enough pressure that he's somehow going to walk the way of the free market. And this,
See, this is how tyranny upon the mind
Please.
of man works.
please,
Mario,
Please.
this is exactly how it works. And see, they're listening to whatever talking head they're listening to, and then that talking head is, if it's a Republican talking head, they're going to listen to. Did I scare you there?
no.
They're going to listen to
I was
all these
entranced talk,
things.
listening to
This
myself.
Mark Levins or whatever going to make a list of all these things bad about Obama. Okay,
Right.
they're going to exclude and not talk about all the things bad about Romney. So what happens by default? Romney! Yay, Romney! Because that's all they got. They got all the negative on Obama. That could be 100% true, 1,000% true, but they don't have any of the same truths told to them about Romney. So their decision afterwards, with this tyranny upon their mind, is, man, anybody but Obama.
Oh man.
Romney's my guy. You know, on the other side of this, the other station, they're going blah 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 Romney, blah 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 Romney, and they're listing all these bad things about Romney.
Right.
100% true,
Right.
but they don't say nothing about the truth about Obama. So those people that are listening in that Democratic camp, tyranny upon their mind, they're going, yeah, man, we got to get Obama elected again, or else, man, we're going to be really in bad trouble over here. And it's like, I'm sitting there, guys like Mario is sitting there and saying, what's wrong with these people?
Really?
Can't they see that we got almost identical twins here, and that they're both marching us off the cliff? But no, the tyranny upon their minds is, and that's what people do, and people even in the Ron Paul movement. Again, I see them passing emails. I'm on a roll here. I got this email about Social Security, and what people what they believe is something that's passed around, and somebody said it, so all of a sudden, man, this is it, and they think it's gospel. And here's an email passed around about Social Security. It says the comments in this history lesson are absolutely true. Social Security is not a welfare entitlement. And I'll stop right there, but and we'll go in there further.
Yes, because
this what they say is absolutely true is absolutely a lie. Those of you that are currently receiving Social Security payments are being paid back on an investment.
Oh yeah.
Absolute lie.
Yeah,
but they're putting this out as if it's the truth.
Because there's a big bank somewhere holding all your money.
Yeah, and then they'll go on to say, if Johnson and a democratically controlled Congress had not stolen our money from the trust fund, the Social Security Trust Fund would enjoy a significant surplus today. So this is power packed with a bunch of lies that these people are buying as truth. And first off,
So you're getting
the
your money
Social
back
Security-
that was already stolen from you.
yeah, the Social Security is a welfare entitlement program. It absolutely is. The Social Security taxes went into the general fund. They went into the Treasury like any other taxes,
Right.
and they were spent as they came in.
Right.
They weren't earmarked in any way.
Right.
There's a case called Helvering and another one, Singer Sewing Machine. And that covered this ground because people challenged this constitutionality of this. So the truth is that nothing ever went into a special trust account. It all went into the general treasury from the get-go, from the beginning. The money that you paid in,
Voluntarily.
voluntary or however, whatever, all those other tyrannies mixed in here, was spent, gone. Those of you that are currently receiving Social Security payments are being paid back on an investment. Wrong, 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 wrong. As bad as our government can get, our federal government can get, it's not in the business of private investments. Okay?
Right.
So you're not getting paid back any investment. Money into the Treasury, spent as it came in. Every year Congress spends more than. So it's never a supplemental trust fund. And then it says, if Johnson and the democratically controlled Congress, let's blame the Democrats. It wasn't the Republicans. Republicans are good. Democrats are bad.
That's right.
Hadn't stolen our money from the trust fund. There was never a trust fund, okay? The Social Security Trust Fund would enjoy a significant surplus today. Boom. So, see what happened around the Johnson administration, a little bit later actually, is that even though those funds were never earmarked in any way, the Congress critters got this bright idea. They make it more confusing for everybody. The taxes go into the general account as usual, and so what they started doing was appropriating to spend on Social Security, not what they knew they were going to spend, but an amount equal to what the taxes were that went into the general fund, the Treasury.
So they would just spend it
No,
as
they
it
wouldn't
came.
spend it. They were appropriated an amount equal to the taxes. So this much came in on for taxes for Social Security. This much is what they were spending for that year. So they appropriate this much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they take this difference
Right.
and loan it back to the general fund, and the general fund would spend it somewhere else. So they'd end up, well, this is the smoke and mirrors kind of a thing. This is really tyranny upon the mind of man. So people would start thinking, well, we got a trust fund here now.
But all that money was already
Just IOUs, it was already spent.
Right.
So this so-called trust fund that Social Security has right now
Right.
is a bunch of IOUs that the same kind of IOUs that the General Treasury would owe anyways to Social Security when they needed it. I mean, they'd still have to appropriate from current taxes.
Is an entitlement program?
That's what?
Is an entitlement program?
It's an entitlement program.
Wow.
It's a welfare program. It's socialism. And what is socialism? Taking it from the guy that makes it, produces it, has it, and giving to the guy that does it.
Redistribution of wealth.
Yeah, but wasn't it first intended to be for that?
Always. It was always set up that way. It had to be. Because the government's not in the business of investments. You know, having you here invest this money for us, government. They never invested it in anything.
But that's how it
They spent
was
it.
sold to us. It was sold to us as being an investment plan.
Yes, it was sold. The PR, the
Retirement plan.
propaganda, the tyranny upon everybody's mind. It was sold that way. Now, I only got through a few parts of this thing. You go on to more of it, but this starts off with, and so they wanted to blame Johnson for that, which is just nonsense. And now the Obama administration tries to pit the younger generation against the Social Security recipients. Remember, there would be no subsidies if the Democrats hadn't stolen our money. And so this is the Democrats that stole our money, not the Republicans.
No
Okay.
new taxes.
And then as a CEO, blah, 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 blah. If you read nothing else, try this one on for size. Please forward this to everyone. And so that's just this guy's spin on this, but then it goes into the history lesson, and it says, don't know this, it's easy to check out if you don't believe it. Be sure and show it to your family and friends. They need a little history lesson. This guy's got it all upside down, totally backwards, of what was and doesn't matter, da-da-da-da, whether facts are facts. Social Security cards up until 1980 expressly stated the number of the card were not to be used for identification purposes, and that's true. So since nearly everyone in the United States now has a number, it became convenient to use it anyway, and the message not for identification was removed. That's just there's still a law that's not supposed to be used for that purpose, but everybody does. An old Social Security card came with not for identification. Yeah, he said. Franklin Roosevelt, a Democrat, introduced the Social Security Act, FICA program, and Congress and both parties are stumbling all over themselves for these programs anyways. So he happened to be the president it came through under. Then he goes that the participation in the program would be completely voluntary, and which is true. It's still true today, but it's enforced as mandatory, as we talked about earlier. It's still voluntary. There's lots of people that don't pay into the Social Security system, and so
Really?
there's no law in the books that makes. But the apparency, they make it the tyranny upon your mind, make it appear that it's mandatory. Now the tax on the employers is a different thing. So. But the participants, and then it says the participants would only have to pay 1% of the first $1,400 of their annual incomes into the program. Well, if you want to know the truth about the program and read the law, it said the first year 1%, and then by third year it was going to be 3%. And then you save $1,400 of their annual income. That's all they would have to pay. But the thing is that, then they go on to say that the money the participants selected to put in the program would be deducted from their income for tax purposes for each year. Well, that didn't mean anything to people in 1935 Because if you made less than $1,400, you didn't pay any income tax. You weren't up at the bracket to pay income tax.
Well, that sure has changed.
Yeah. So that the money the participant puts would be put in an independent trust fund. That's this guy said it's a blatant, outright lie.
It's a cover, man. He's covering for the theft. He's saying, hey, if it wasn't for these Democrats, the theft would be all right, and we'd all actually be benefiting from having our money stolen from us.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
because when Republicans they steal in a really conscious, conservative manner, and they do it for your good. It's good for you. So just vote Romney in because Obama's a Democrat.
So anyway, there's this whole bunch of stuff in here, and that's the message. You know?
Yeah.
That's the damn Democrats. And the socialism would have worked great under the Republicans because they're better. They're better at controlling all of it. But this is how the tyranny upon the mind of man works, misinformation and whatnot. And the typical argument is, Republican Social Security should be this way. Democrat Social Security should be this way. Democrats saying the Republicans messed it up. Republicans saying the Democrats messed it up. Over here, the libertarians saying, this is socialism, guys, or the constitutionalists saying this is socialism, and the program should be ended. You shouldn't.
So what do you do with all the people that have worked all their lives and paid into what they think is their Social Security retirement?
Well, first off, number one thing is they need to admit for themselves that they've been ripped off and lied to, and that it's not what they thought it was. Because these people typically are people with pride. They would never go on welfare knowingly. Right. Now, many of them, because the money was taken from them, and they're thinking it's a real retirement fund, are now dependent on it. So you can't throw them out in the street. So you got to find a way to fund it for them. That's not forcing it out of the young people redistributing their product because they know it's not going to work. So you find a way to fund, and you can find lots of ways to be creative, especially to cut.
How about we end the wars?
End the wars, and a lot of other things you can end the government shouldn't be doing, and especially these silly welfare programs for people that can work, and find a way to fund it for people that are dependent on it.
You mean
billions of dollars on earned income?
Right.
well, let's stop 2 years of unemployment insurance.
So,
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And you can fund those people that are dependent on it.
where would be the cutoff? Where would you?
Well, you could do it a lot of ways. You could say like you could set up something. Anybody that's on Social Security right now, if they would rather just not pay any income tax and be free of the income tax system, then volunteer to drop your Social Security payments.
I'm there. Let's do it.
There's a lot of people that are in retirement that have good-sized retirements, and they say, I don't have to pay income tax anymore. Yeah, keep the Social Security money.
It's all
They'll
good.
do it voluntarily. Free me up of income tax.
Oh yeah, because this is the retaliatory plunder at that time. Hey, they're stealing from me over here. I'll just go ahead and steal from you over there, and we'll call it even.
And then you got other people that doesn't work for because that's all they get.
Right.
So those people, they're going to stay on until they pass away. And then the younger people, you can give them the option. If let's say they're 55 and younger, do you want to keep your whole check and not pay into this, but you got to provide your own retirement? Then they might go, yeah, I'd rather do that way. And some maybe not. So you say, okay, you just give them the option. You're really making it voluntary, but you don't open the door that we're going to continue this program.
Because you bust the tyranny.
Yeah, you're busting the tyranny. They know it's kind of a fraud, and they're like giving a restoration or retribution, reparations even to those people that were lied to and that
there you go.
They were stolen.
There you go.
The money was stolen from them.
Absolutely.
And you can fund these things in a lot of different ways,
Well, and being it is September 11th here, man, I wanted to also bust another tyranny, man, because we only got a few minutes here, and I really wanted to talk about this, man. This idea, we're all told that you got to keep on, don't end it. We can't end the wars, even though that would be a good thing to do because we could stop all these other socialist programs, and it's not a good thing because we're always going to have these enemies because they hate us because we're free. We're so free, even though we have all of these taxes put onto us, even though we can't drink raw milk, even though you can't marry who you want to marry, even though you can't ingest any particular substances that might alter your mind state, not including alcohol, because that's perfectly okay for some reason. Maybe that's the freedom that they're talking about, the freedom to drink alcohol. Is that why they hate us? Because we could smoke
How
cigarettes?
many beers can you choose from?
Well, in Colorado, you can't have anything that's over 3.5% buying it out of the grocery store. And in Oregon, you can't buy liquor from the liquor store on Sunday because it's such a free country here that we live in. But I have a different idea of why they hate us. Here coming out of the newspaper yesterday, everybody was cheering, of course, right in time for the Patriot Day. Oh yeah, Patriot Day in Yemen. That country that we are involved in a war in, but Congress has not actually declared a war. And yes, Yemen, where the underwear bomber came from, and where Awalaki was killed by a drone plane. Yemen, that country somewhere in the Middle East there. An airstrike killed Al-Qaeda's number 2 leader in Yemen, along with 6 others traveling with him in one car on Monday, U.S. and Yemeni officials said. A major breakthrough for U.S.-backed efforts to cripple the group in the impoverished Arab nation. So they didn't say who the other 6 people were. I imagine it's probably his wife and his kids or his grandparents, somebody else like this. But they hate us because we're free, right? And 2 senior officials confirmed al-Shiri's death, but could not confirm any U.S. involvement in the airstrike. The U.S. doesn't usually comment on such attacks, although it has used drones in the past to go after al-Qaeda members in Yemen, which is considered a crucial battleground with the terror network. So usually we wouldn't talk about these drone planes, but because Patriot Day is coming up and we got to get everybody rallied around the drones and the flag, we're going to go ahead and talk about it. So we're great, right? We kill them. They hate us because we're free. We kill them in Yemen, and they hate us because we're free. We kill them in Yemen. But then just a couple days before this, a U.S. drone strike targeting al-Qaeda suspects, perhaps this one that they got yesterday, killed 13 civilians, including 3 women and 3 security officials in the rest of Middle Eastern country. This is one of the very few times when our target was completely missed. It was a mistake, but we hope it will not hurt our anti-terror efforts in the region, says a senior Yemeni Defense Ministry official. He told this to CNN. So they hate us because we're free. So here's my thing, Mike. We killed number 2 in Al-Qaeda in Yemen, right? But if we just killed, along with him, 5 other people who aren't being indicted on any crimes, and then 2 weeks earlier we killed 13 other people, how long is it going to take for number 2 place in Al-Qaeda to be filled up? I mean, come on. Are you telling me these people aren't going to be pissed off that you're just drone bombing people in their country? Of course they're going to be pissed off. Number 2, you're going to have number 3, number 4, number 5. You're going to have a whole nother country that's pissed off. And what's going to happen? What's going to happen because of this? More terrorist activity. They're going to come. People are going to come here. You killed their brother. You killed their kids. You killed their wives, their grandparents. You killed their entire country.
Well, that don't matter. They forgive us for that. But they hate us because we're free.
They hate us because we're free, man.
That's it. They forgive us for killing all them relatives and stuff. They understand. But they can't stand it that we're free.
And they can't stand it. You know what really pisses me off, Mike, is this this doesn't even get covered on the news. Really, it's just passed by. And I've been kind of harsh of our local semi-free market talk show host Mike Slater here, but because on some of the things that he said on his show. But you know what really pisses me off about his show the most, man, is that he called himself and his people the Slater Crusaders. And on every week they play that horn song with the war. You know, that one really sad song with the bugle. And it's like the Slater Crusaders. So, I mean, isn't that just a nod to the holy war that is going on here? Isn't that just saying that this is really a war against the Muslim people here? I mean, a crusader. I mean, what, you guys say, oh, yeah, he's a crusader for the free market. No, man, because all day long you're on your show talking about how we got to help the vets and the wounded warriors, and we got to, suicide hotlines, and we got to get them their cars and fix up their houses, and these are such good things, and we're going to, on the Pearl Harbor Day, we're going to have all these vets come in and talk about how great the war is. And then the Slater Crusader, and so with people like this representing the free market and representing the libertarianism, man, I just feel like, you know what, we're really doomed. So I hope that we get picked up on a major talk show, radio show here really quick, Mike.
Well, I'm sure Mike Slater's going to call us tomorrow and want to hear some more from us. But Mike Slater's living in the tyranny too, tyranny upon the mind of man.
I hope it does come in. That's an invitation to you, Mike. Come on in, join us for the show, man. Talk about these things with us. I know you want to.
Yeah, you know what? You should invite him down here for the next program.
I will.
We can help bust tyranny upon his mind.
That would be awesome.
You just touched on something there with Mike Slater and all this rah for the soldiers and stuff, and people want to go, let's help the wounded warriors.
Thank you for your service.
And thank you for your service, and glorifying all this stuff. So, and they're encouraging people to go in and do this sort of thing. Yeah, commit suicide. And really, instead of setting up for what it is, now, and somebody, what I'd like to say is, and I wonder how many would say, yeah, you're right, is shame on America's leaders and the government for sending you over there to put you in such danger, to cause such a thing to happen to you.
Yeah.
And you, like so many other folks, naively believed you were doing the right thing and fighting for liberty. And it was a sham. And a lot of these guys find out it was a sham. And again, like we touched on the suicide here. So the thing about the tyranny upon the mind of man that is really important for people to learn is when they're getting this information, it reads it, it sounds good, say two things to yourself. One, what's this guy's purpose? And it should be obvious when he's condemning Democrats all the time. But two, what's the other side of the coin? And the other side of the coin could be both these guys are scumbags. And but they want to get the country divided into this guy's my guy and this guy's my guy, and the other guy's the scumbag, when the truth is the guys are almost twins. So tyranny upon your mind, you want to bust through that so you can recognize the difference between things.
All right. Well, that seems like we can wrap it up here, Mike. That's our hour.
Where's a balloon?
I'm throwing a balloon.
One more balloon to bust.
Ahead, Mike. Get it, Mike. Get it. Well, don't stab me, man.
They won't break. We can't break the tyranny. All right. End of the program.
Awesome. Thanks to our special audience for coming out, and we'll see you next week.
Tyranny busted. Tyranny busted. Tyranny busted. Tyranny busted. Done.